Hi everyone. In today's lecture, we're going to be going over direct guidance, and we will continue to talk about direct guidance in our future lectures with the teacher behavior continuum. So stay tuned and enjoy. Just to get us started, let's talk a little bit about our definition for direct guidance. We already discussed what indirect guidance is, which is our behind-the-scenes work that we're doing in order to influence children's behaviors. And now when we're moving into direct guidance, this is when we're actually engaging with the child. They are in front of us, we are in the same vicinity as them, and so direct guidance consists of everything that we are saying and doing in the moment with young children. So this can be physical, verbal, and affective techniques that we might be using in order to influence children's behavior. So all of the forms of guidance that we're using are strategies in order to influence children's behaviors. And so this involves direct interactions, hence the term direct guidance, between adults and young children. So we're directly involved with the children in our proximity. On this slide, we're going to talk about the purpose of direct guidance. It's very important, and why do we use it? So we use direct guidance in order to support children's self-awareness and increase their regulation. We want children to be able to recognize, oh, this behavior was induced because I was feeling frustrated in that moment, and that frustration now led me to push one of my peers out of the way because I was feeling angry that I had to wait my turn. And I'm more self-aware of this, and now I can take actions in order to, when I'm feeling frustrated in the future, come into a space where I can talk more openly about that and regulate those big feelings of frustration. So being aware of our actions and things that we're saying and that we're doing in the space. Also helping children to recognize and understand what socially acceptable behaviors are. So, for example, noise level, when we're indoors in the classroom versus when we're outside playing on the playground. What does that behavior look like, and what kinds of noise levels should we be adhering to in different types of spaces? And how do we interact with others? So when somebody does go first in line, or somebody pushes us on the way out the door when we're heading outside, how do I react and how do I respond? Or if I want to take a turn with a toy, how do I ask my friend to take a turn when they're all done instead of just snatching the toy away from them because I want it and I want it right now? So we're teaching them different ways of engaging within the space and the environment, and these are tools that they're going to be able to utilize inside our classroom space with us and outside in the real world. So we're teaching them real world types of behaviors that are going to be socially acceptable and used all the time. Also, we want to support an inhibition and support children through redirection of non-adaptive behaviors. So when we do notice a behavior that isn't socially acceptable, how do we redirect them? So for example, if a young toddler in your classroom is going over to start to bite somebody because they're in their space when they're playing at the sensory bin, how do we notice that inhibition and that behavior, and how do we redirect them to something more appropriate, or how do we guide them to engage in a different type of behavior? So I may notice that that child is starting to lean over and I can see that they're about to bite, and so I may redirect them to a more appropriate alternative and say, hey friend, would you like a teether for that age specifically, recognizing developmentally where they're at and that they might need something to support them. I also might redirect them and let them know, hey friend, I see that your friend is kind of close to you in the sensory bin. Did you want to let them know that you need a little bit of space? And then they might recognize, oh yeah, I do need some space. And so they might then be able to say space or move their bodies over, or I might provide them with a couple different options of how they can engage instead of using that behavior of biting. I might let them know, hey friend, just a reminder, we do want to make sure that we have enough room to move in the sensory bin. You can come stand over here if you need some more space, or if it does lead to further biting, I can talk about what that means and why we do not bite our friends, and here are some alternatives. So depending on the severity of the behavior and how far into the situation we are, we can use different types of redirection. Also, all of our guidance that we're using, indirect and direct, is a way to support children's relationships with ourselves as adults as well as with other children. We want to create strong relationships. That's one of the foundations of engaging in a setting when we're working with young children, is building healthy, lasting, strong relationships where children have a sense of security and safety, and they recognize that they have adults who are going to support them as they're learning. There are many different things that children are learning about through their behavior. behaviors. And so one of the best ways that we can provide appropriate direct guidance is through building relationships with children. So being consistent in what we say. Yes, we might have to remind them multiple times to pump the soap before they start to wash their hands, or to throw away their paper towel when they're all done, or to make sure that they move their shoes out of the walkway so that friends don't trip and fall, or when they're getting excited and start to run around the room before we're going outside, we're going to have to remind them that we are going to be using our walking feet in the classroom. And those are all ways that we are using direct guidance, but also supporting a strong relationship with children, letting them know that even though they are engaging in a behavior that is not appropriate for this social setting, or we need to adjust it to make sure that we're safe and keeping our bodies safe in the classroom, we're consistent with them. We're letting them know we're there to support them. We might provide additional support if a friend is not able to engage in that task that we've asked of them to follow the rules. We are doing all of this to support children and to create strong relationships. And of course, last but not least, enhancing personal competency and skills. Just like our indirect guidance, guidance in general is a way to support children and help them to feel comfortable, confident, and increase skills that they may already have or skills that we're working on. On this slide, we're going to talk a little bit about some strategies specifically related to physical guidance. So physical guidance is when we are in physical contact or proximity to influence a child's behavior. So I provided a couple pictures to help you to get a visual of what that might look like. So when we are using direct guidance, this is everything that we're saying and we're doing. And not all direct guidance is going to require us to be in close proximity to a child. And so with physical guidance, this is when I'm in close proximity and I'm using my body to support the child. So I might use my body to model. So in this first image, we see that there is an adult and a young child, and there's an animal here. We have a dog, and what I'm noticing and what I'm gauging from this photo, and the reason I use this, is the adult is showing through modeling how to support the dog in that space. So how do we pet the dog? What kind of hand gestures do we use? We use gentle, soft hands when we're petting the dog, and we pet the dog behind the ears and on the back, and we stay away from the dog's face to make sure that we give the dog space, because the dog has teeth, and sometimes when dogs get startled, they might use their teeth to bite because they're nervous or scared. And so I'm using my body through modeling in close proximity to the child and with my hands to show them how to actually pet a dog. And I might be reminding them, or this is a first time thing, and so I'm using my modeling in order to influence the child's behavior. And so after I've demonstrated how to appropriately pet the dog or any type of animal or any type of thing that I would like them to be able to do, then I will give the child the chance to try on their own. So this could be that we are modeling how to be a kind friend. So kind friends are ones that are giving gentle hugs and smiling and checking in on our friends when we notice that they are feeling distressed or sad, or we're helping our friends to clean up in the classroom, or maybe we're modeling how to wash our hands or to throw away our trash when we're all done. And so we demonstrate using a dust pan and a broom and showing them this is what we do when we clean up when we have a spill, or how we use the microfiber cloth to wipe the table when we're all done and if we have a spill. So I'm modeling what that looks like, and we're going to be doing a lot of modeling in the classroom day to day, and we may be modeling things on repeat, and that's okay. Children need lots of examples, and through our physical guidance, we can model frequently what behaviors we expect of children. And so we're influencing their current knowledge, and we're influencing future behaviors that we would like them to engage in. Now, we also might have to engage in restraint. And so let's continue to use this example on the top with the dog. So I might have to put my body in front of the child's if I'm noticing that they are starting to touch the dog near their face. I might have to move them away, or I might have to put my hand in front of them as a protective precaution. So sometimes we might use restraint. I'll give a classic example. When you're getting ready to go outside, sometimes you might be going into areas that have safety warnings, or if you're getting ready to walk across the street and a child starts to book it across the street, you're going to have to use some restraint. Prior to that, you may have demonstrated modeling of how we look across the street, left and right, or right to left, and that we'd be holding hands ahead of time. But sometimes that hand might slip out and the child starts to move along on their own, and we want to make sure that they are safe, and so we might use some restraint. Or if I'm noticing a child who is going down to hit or bite another child, I might use restraint in order to protect both children in that scenario. And so I'm using this type of physical guidance in close proximity in order to support the child and help them to engage in appropriate behaviors. And so I'm doing this in times where I feel it is best. We are using our best judgment in these moments, depending on what the situation is and what it will call for. We also might use different types of gestures in order to provide children with a context of what we might be doing. So I might put up a hand and say shh, and that indicates that we are going to be using a soft voice in the classroom. Or I might use big gestures when I'm talking loudly to indicate that we're going to be doing a more exuberant and outgoing type of activity. So my gestures could indicate that. Same with my body language. So my body language can tell a lot about how I'm feeling and what I'm wanting the child to do in order to support and influence their behavior. So you'll notice in the second image here, we have an adult and a child, and the adult is lower at the child's level and they're using their hands to hold the child's hand. So we're using a variety of different types of strategies here. We might be using appropriate restraint and body language. So my body language here when I'm low at the child's level is indicating to them that this is a more serious conversation. I need them to be in close proximity to me. We might be talking about something that is a safety concern, or just reminding them or checking in of, I appreciate that you were going over and checking on your friend, but they're needing a little bit of space right now, and they were letting you know that they weren't ready to play. I know you were so excited to come over and show them your truck that you brought for show and tell today, but they weren't quite ready, and they were telling you that they needed some space, and you were continuing to sit next to them when they said no, that they weren't ready. And so I just wanted to check in with you and see, would you like to show me your truck? I'm ready and I'm okay, and not needing any space right now, but we still need to respect our friend and their boundaries. And so I'm using my body language, my close proximity, and appropriate restraint in order to let the child know, hey, here's what we can do in this moment. Here's the behaviors that are okay right now. And here's why the behavior that you previously engaged in needs some adjustment and support. So all different types of ways that we might physically guide children. And these are just a few examples. Okay, moving on. Now let's talk about verbal guidance. So as we were discussing previously, we can use physical guidance in order to influence children's behaviors, but oftentimes we're using a lot of verbal guidance. We are constantly talking to young children. And so I provided here not only what kinds of verbal guidance ways we can use to influence children's behaviors, but also giving you a couple alternatives to adjust your language in order to best meet positive child guidance. And so again, we're using words to influence children's behaviors. So unlike our physical guidance, where this is all about our body language and how we are engaging in close proximity, this is how we are engaging using words. And most of the time we are using them in tandem with one another. So if I am going to come over and use restraint on a child, I would want to also pair that with verbal guidance. Hey friend, I am going to be putting my arm in front of you. I am concerned that right now, due to a moment of frustration, that you might be engaging in behavior that could hurt your body and your peer's body. So I am going to put my arm in front of you in order to keep you safe. I also might use verbal guidance when I am getting down on the child's level, per the example that we talked about earlier. So I'm not just going to get down on the child's level and stare into their eyes or hold their hand for an extended period of time. I will be telling the child what we wanted to discuss during that time. So me getting down on the child's level can be a great opportunity for us to have an intimate moment, build that relationship, and me to share with them what I wanted to talk about. And so what might be happening is that in that example from earlier where the adult is at the child's level, we could adjust some of our language. So some of these examples here in the red zone, I might be saying, don't run, don't jump. And I could adjust that language in order to best meet the child's needs and to support them. So we get down on the child's level and I might call them over and say, hey friend, can I talk to you for a moment? And I might say, friend, I just wanted to remind you to please use walking feet in the classroom. And I follow up with why. Why do I want us to use walking feet in the classroom? I might Also, speak authoritatively to children and let them know, hey friends, I do need you to make sure that you're using a quiet voice. We have a lot of friends who are sleeping right now for nap, and so if you would like, you're more than welcome to go outside. We do have a teacher and some friends out there if you'd like to use your loud voices, but right now we are using our soft voices in the classroom. I might also say, be gentle. Please be gentle when we're petting the dog instead of don't hit the dog. So both of those phrases that I can use, I can speak authoritatively, but I want to use positive rephrasing. So those pleases or what I'd like the child to do instead of what I wouldn't like them to do is a great way to just easily switch that language. So think about some of the things that you might be saying in the classroom, or what are behaviors that you want children to do. So switch the mindset into what do I not want children to do into what do I want them to do? What is the behavior that I am achieving or would like them to achieve? What is the behavior that I would like out of the child, and how do I get that across through my verbal guidance? Also, a great alternative for supporting young children is providing choices. And so I might say, hey friend, I need you to please walk in the classroom. We do use walking feet in the classroom. However, if you're wanting to move your body in a different way, you can always hop or you can wiggle to the sink when you're getting ready to go wash your hands. So sometimes the behavior that we're expecting isn't always going to go over with what the child needs or what they're craving or desiring. And so we have to think about, how can I meet the child where they're at? And that's really tapping back into developmentally appropriate practices and recognizing that not all children are going to have the same needs in the same moment at the same time. And so choices are a great option for being able to engage in appropriate verbal guidance and help the child increase the behavior that we are wanting. So just because we don't want them to run in the classroom doesn't mean that there is only one option, walking. They can do other things in the classroom. Maybe there's an area that they can go and dance in, or they can jump up and down, because maybe their body is craving some high energy to release. And so walking is not going to cut it in that moment. And so we need to think about what is an appropriate choice that we would be okay with the child doing during that time. Also, providing logical reasons for requests. So this is the big why. Why do I want you to do this? Why do I want you to use kind words? Why do I want you to only use the ball outside? And we also need to think about, is that reason logical in both my eyes and for the child? So sometimes we make up a lot of rules because they're important to us, and we want to make sure that children are adhering to those rules, but we don't always give them a lot of explanation to that. And so it's important for us to use our verbal guidance to provide children with logical reasons for those requests. So I'll just go back to the example about please walk in the classroom. When we're asking a child to please walk in the classroom, I'm going to just start with that, but I need to end with the reason as to why I want them to walk. Hey friend, just wanted to remind you, please walk in the classroom. Our walking feet help us to keep our bodies safe. I know that you're really excited to get ready to go outside right now. If you'd like, you're more than welcome to help me get prepped and ready. We still got to get our water cups, and we still need to clean up the classroom. And as soon as we clean up the classroom and get our water cups ready, we can run all afternoon long outside. But please make sure you use your walking feet to keep your body safe in the classroom. So I'm giving a logical reason as to why we need to walk in the classroom. And I'm also letting them know that their behavior is something that we are able to do, just not at this time, at a later time. Now, some behaviors are not going to be able to be accommodated for. So, for example, the don't throw the toys into please put them down gently on the ground. Throwing toys is something that is not going to be safe, whether we're indoors or we're outdoors. But if the child is having a need for throwing, is there a game or something that they can throw? Maybe a beanbag toss. So if I'm wanting the child to clean up the toys and they're starting to throw them around the classroom, can I create a fun and interactive game for them to be able to clean up? Or can I help them by providing them with something that they can do to throw? And if you can't, if that behavior is just something that is not able to be accomplished in a different alternative or redirected, we would still need to provide a logical reason for that request. Biting, hitting, aggression, those types of behaviors, those are things that even though the child is having a hyper aroused moment, We need to make sure that they stay safe and that their peers stay safe and that the classroom environment stays safe. And so we will let them know through that request why we're not allowed to do those things and why it could hurt themselves or their bodies. But really, the main reason why we use verbal guidance for logical reasons for requests is to give children proper explanations. Just like we would want an explanation as to why we are not able to do something or why the rule is the way it is, children need that information too. Alrighty, last but not least, another technique that we can use is affective guidance. And so this is the technique where we are expressing emotions or feelings in order to influence children's behaviors. And so what this looks like is we are providing specific and honest feedback to children. And so I did provide another example of how to kind of flip around the wording that you might be using. So you might already be using good starting points for guidance, but we can amp it up a little bit. And so when we give specific feedback, we are catering to children's interests, their individuality, and also to building that relationship. So when emotions and feelings are involved, it is a way for us to increase that foundational piece of a strong and supportive relationship between you and the child. And so we're creating positive attention and we're providing them with that as an individual. So sometimes I might be talking to the whole group, but I also might be talking to children one-on-one. And so I need to create moments where we can engage with the whole group, small groups, and individual children. And again, we're focusing on feelings. So I'm really thinking about how is my guidance going to drive children to want to engage in that behavior again, and how do I help them to feel competent and confident in their abilities. So one of the things that we talked about as why direct guidance is important is not only to support relationships, but to help children's personal competencies and skills. And so when we do focus on feelings, this directly taps into their social and emotional needs. And we want to promote intrinsic reinforcement. So when we are asking children to engage in specific behaviors, we want them to be able to engage in those behaviors on their own because it feels good. We want them to want to throw away their trash because they recognize that it's important to keep our classroom clean, and they like that the classroom is a clean space so that they can continue to play. We also want them to feel motivated to support their friends when they are feeling upset or encourage them when they're having a happy moment. And so that's the intrinsic reinforcement that we'd like to provide for them. And also, active listening is key when it comes to guidance. So when children are expressing how they're feeling and when something went differently than they expected and they're feeling really down and anxious or frustrated or flustered about something, or they're feeling elated or extremely exuberant about something and they want to talk to you about it, or they want to show you something, the work that they've created, we want to be actively listening. And so here is a praise makeover. So oftentimes when we are engaging in providing children with emotion and feelings in order to support their behaviors, we do it at a bare minimum or a basic level. And something that we might say constantly when children come to show us our artwork is, wow, that's so cool, or great job, or you're so smart. So those are things that we might be saying, I'm so proud of you, which are great. We want children to know that we're proud of them and that they did a great job and that we recognize their abilities and their skills. But there's more that we can add to that, because over and over and over again, just hearing great job or I'm proud of you, well, why? Why are you proud of me? Why did I do a great job? Just like we want to give children the reasons as to why of the logical requests that we're making, we also want to provide them with deep connection and that honest, specific feedback. So you can see here, instead of just saying great job, you might say, I like the way that you keep trying even when the problem becomes harder. Or instead of just saying, I'm so proud of you, we might say, I'm so proud of you. You went back to check your work, and that extra step was a great idea. And I might even add on to that, talking about what extra step was a great idea, so that I am recognizing the certain things that they were doing specifically. So I might say, I'm so proud of you. I love that you went over and you were checking on your friend when they were over in the cozy area and they were saying that they needed a hug, and you went over to check on them. That was really kind of you, and I'm so proud of you for being able to use your time when you could go and play to check on your friend. That was such a kind gesture. I would love a hug too. I love your hug. So making sure that we are really providing children with active listening. So a child doesn't have to speak verbally to us for us to actively listen. It comes through their body language and their behaviors. And so us being able to provide them with that verbal I'm proud of you and here's all the reasons why, specifically in that moment, helps them to be intrinsically motivated to want to do that again. Oh, wow, my teacher is so proud of me because I went over and I provided my friend with a hug and I went to check on them. And we can now register that and say, well, okay, whenever I see somebody who's feeling upset or down, I'm going to offer them a hug. I'm going to go and check on them because I know that that's something that my teacher is proud of and I feel proud. And so we might even recognize not only that we are proud of the child or that they did a great job, but helping them to also set that tone for their mindset. You did a great job. You should tell yourself that, or remind yourself you did a wonderful job. And here's why. You were so creative in when you were sharing your ideas. And I love the way that you used your words to talk to your friend about what made you feel upset. So really, again, this is a great opportunity to think about how do we create connections with young children. All right, everyone, so that's all I have for this slide, and we will continue to talk more about direct guidance in our future lectures. Bye for now.